Welcome back to another episode of Professor Natalie Games. My name is Natalie Van Duzen, and I am a professor at the University of Alberta. I teach courses on Norse mythology, the Viking Age, and Old Norse language, among other things. And I am reacting to God of War Ragnarok. So this is episode 4, and we are going to get right into it.
Huh. Ground looks kind of cracked there.
Ah, back to smashing through things for fun and profit. Lovely.
Mimir, what did you hear of Odin's offer?
To the lad? Not much. They stepped outside. He told us about it. I wouldn't worry.
What about the things he did not tell us?
Very fair question. Odin is notoriously unreliable. Maybe less so in the mythology, but definitely in the mythology, but especially in a lot of the saga literature in which he features. And I've talked about this in previous videos. Odin is a figure who is said to be someone who gives his favor and takes it away just as easily. And there are a number of phrases in the sagas, as well as in different types of poetry, that say that Odin is not to be trusted, basically, and not in those words exactly, but basically say more or less that Odin's not someone to be trusted. So Odin withholding information, very much on brand for Odin.
Remember when we fought our first troll out this way?
I remember you lost control.
We must tread carefully, brother. Danger is close.
You okay fighting without a shield?
It is not my first time.
Phew. Almost home.
Brother, a word. Don't hold the lad's curiosity against him. It goes with being young.
In my youth, we learned obedience.
And is that what you wish for him? Brother, he's going to walk his own path. If you don't want him walking away from you, then smarten up and walk with him a while.
Mimir gives some really solid
If
parenting
we
advice.
could find a way to open roam travel to Svartalfheim, there'd be all sorts of useful equipment for us to...
Enough. You will go.
Really?
But if we do not find Tyr, you will abandon your search. For good.
All right. You won't be sorry.
Famous last words.
Kratos! Over here!
Sindri!
As I live and breathe, is that Atreus? It's been so long! How you've grown!
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you'll follow me, Brock mentioned you needed somewhere safe to spend the night, and I believe your favorite dwarves can help you out with that. We're still your favorite dwarves, right?
You're still the only dwarves we know.
I'll take it. After you, my friends.
Where are we going?
The cleanest cabin in all the 9 realms. And I'd prefer it to stay that way. Not looking at anyone in particular. Kratos. After that Thor incident, we thought we should make up some rooms, till you can figure out your next moves. Nearly there.
It's gorgeous.
As you can see, we've settled here in the realm between realms. It's nothing much, but it's safe from Fimbulwinter, safe from Odin's eyes. And you
Wow.
really can't beat the view if you're into shimmering gray voids.
That's amazing, Sin. We have a plan to talk to you about, actually.
Intriguing. Come in. Come in! Now, if you would just wipe your feet very thoroughly, I'll wait. You're not gonna wipe your feet, are you? Okay then. Your bedrooms are there, the kitchen is just over there. Anybody need a snack? Kratos? Snack?
I do not need a snack.
What we need is your help getting to Svartalfheim so we can try and rescue Tyr.
To Tyr. Alive? I mean, that's... What?
It's okay. I told him everything.
Everything?
You waited my son and disobeying me.
No, I kept an eye on him. On your behalf. Nothing risky, everything very safe. Somebody else speak.
What's important right now is that we try and open up travel between realms again. You said you know a way?
Yes, I do. It's just a lot of mud.
Then why haven't you opened the way already, man?
Well, to be frank, there was something we needed your help with.
Oh! The Holder brothers finally require the services of the smartest man alive.
That's it precisely.
Hey! Not so fast. How'd that get in here? What the hell is it anyway?
That is my son.
Well, what in all yarns me that happened to him? He's too damn tall now. And he looks like that. I blame you. Well, come on then. Let's get him something that fits at least.
He's just getting older, you dark prat. Didn't you ever have an awkward phase in your youth?
Hey,
I suppose what's done is done. But you'll be putting your foot down from now on if you know what's good.
Oh, he's trying. Believe me.
All right, let's gear you fuckers up before you go off gallivanting.
Begin with this.
Busted up good. Wouldn't you rather I just whip you up a new one?
It is important to me.
Well, I'll see what I can do. In the meanwhile, how about I fix you up with something to get you by? Found some items you left behind, tossed them in the chest. What would you do without me?
I'm gonna go look around. Check out my room. Tell Sindri when you're ready.
And how's life been treating everyone's favorite Azure Vulgarian?
The fuck you call me?
Exquisite.
Hey, come see. I guess this is where they store the food. Nice to have options if I wake up hungry.
He's such a teenager.
Finding everything all right, I hope?
How do we unlock the realms?
We'll just
Ooh.
need something from back at the workshop.
I'm just going to pause there because I want to admire this image of Yggdrasil, the great ash or the world tree with its 9 realms. I really love the different artistic renderings of Yggdrasil just generally and how that tree and its 9 realms are visualized. So I hope we get to see it up close again because I think I really like this particular rendering.
Follow me, and be sure to bring the head. So, where exactly is Tyr being held?
He's imprisoned in a mine somewhere. That's all we know so far.
The realm is full of mines, you realize. You'll need help narrowing it down. Oh, you should talk to Durlin.
Who's Darlin?
He's a cousin of ours, sort of. Works for the city on safety issues. Should have access to all kinds of information on mines. And I know he's no friend of Odin. That's why your mother sought his help when she was trying to whip up a rebellion. Ready?
A rebellion? Did you know about that?
I did not.
A rebel leader who knew Mom. Sounds like exactly what we need.
I think you missed the ta-da. Well, never mind. I'll have this oiled up in no time. Meet you at the gateway outside.
Rebel leader? Durlin? If that ain't giving a hound a haircut.
Huh?
And you just remember things however they pop into your being, don't you? I suppose you think Durlin's just counting the days until a couple of strays show up looking for trouble.
What do you mean, Brock?
Will he help us or not?
No, never mind. It ain't old Brock's place to cast aspersions on my relations. This smudge sponger notwithstanding.
Ignoring you.
Fine. Go darken Durlin's door. See for yourself how it goes. Just be warned, He's not the friendly sort of dwarf folk you're used to. He's cranky as all get out. And he talk funny, too.
Sounds like a true study in contrast.
So Durlin, I think that must be a reference to Durin. So Durin is one of the many dwarves who's named in the Sirius's prophecy in the Poetic Edda, which I've referred to a number of times before. It's the kind of poem that gives kind of an entire picture of the mythological cosmos and the time frame from before creation to after Ragnarok. And in it, there's essentially just a catalog of dwarf names, and it's something that Tolkien lifted directly from. And also Snorri quotes that very list in his Prose Edda. But in here it is Durin, not Durlin, but very, very minor difference.
You hear that?
Hmm.
Are those some kind of dragons? They're so far, I can't tell how big they are.
We'll just need the Bifrost in the head. Brock, do the touching.
Oh, this would be the part requiring my assistance then.
You said it. This device here has been crafted to your measurements. It'll help you get a better look at the problem with those Bifrost eyes of yours.
What
So,
is this?
Do I control this thing somehow then?
Oh, no. This is just to hold you in place while we shine this light in your eyes.
Oh, Sindri, you sodding bastard!
Open! Open now! I was really hoping not to use the eyelid clamps.
Do it!
Oh!
That's it! Good! Now, release!
Still unpleasant.
That's our cue. Come on, hurry!
I'm coming!
There it is again.
Asshole does eggs, man. What was that for?
You'll see soon enough. Just need to adjust. There! That should do it.
Ralsvalga is the eagle that sits atop Yggdrasil. That means corpse swallower.
See? No permanent damage.
I'll show you permanent damage, you wee fuck! Kratos, throw me at him! Horns first!
Guess you takes a joke, you old goat.
Just delighted.
The Bifrost is broken.
Now that we've reconfigured these gateways to use Yggdrasil seeds, you won't need a travel table or a Bifrost lamp anymore.
I also used it for light.
Okay, good note. I'll figure something out, but first, come on, let me show you how it works.
Or a Mimir.
Okay, aim your key at the rune for Svartalfheim on the right, then concentrate. This should take you to the wetlands outside Nidavellir City. Just make your way to the town square and ask for Durlin at the tavern.
You sure they'll know him at the tavern?
Durlin's always been an inveterate inebriate. I suppose he might have completely changed, but in my experience,
Did you want to come with us?
Oh, I might drop in, but the wetlands are moist. And the Grim are everywhere. Hostile, slimy, foul-smelling creatures. But good luck!
Thanks. Wait, what?
I said good luck!
Huh.
Whoa, do you feel that?
What's that, lad?
Anything, everything. It's warm. We can probably use his boat. Just get it free.
More boat times.
Careful, lad.
Nista!
Behind you! Look out!
A wretch.
Why are these things so fast?
On your left! I see we're already off to a lively start.
Atreus, you dropped your guard.
I got the boat free, though.
I hope we get more boat stories.
I still can't believe Mom led a whole rebellion here. Against Odin. And never talked about it.
The fact that it didn't go well might have countered that notion.
What your mother did before we met was her business.
Did you ever ask?
Eyes on the water. There are resources.
You never asked Mom about what she used to do. What did you talk about when you met? Like, did you just say... Woman, guard the house. I will go to catch fish in the river. And then leave for 5 days?
No. Your mother was far better at fishing than I. That wheel is blocking the channel.
I imagine if you can turn it, we should be able to get through.
So these are wetlands, huh? Pretty accurate.
It is a bog.
The smell is making my eyes burn.
You know, it is a fair bit more potent than when I last visited, now that you mention it.
Okay, so just pausing really quickly. The fact that they are in wetlands and that he referred to it as a bog is probably significant because bogs were considered to be sacred spaces in Scandinavia in pre-Christian periods, not only the Viking Age, but in eras before that as well. We know that individuals sacrificed, hordes of weapons to bogs, as well as human sacrifices. There are a number of such sacrifices from before the Viking Age that are that come from Denmark. So if you look up, bog bodies, Denmark, you'll find a number of these, like the Kraubelleman, for example, of high status individuals who seem to have been sacrificed to an Odin-like god. So Odin, or a predecessor of Odin. So this is something we know from the archaeological record, as well as some of the descriptions of worship practices in pre-Christian Scandinavia that basically tell us that sacred groves and bogs were places where sacrificial acts took place, and sacrifice and worship went hand in hand, so much that the same word in Old Norse that means to sacrifice, brota, also means to worship. An apple? Nornir chest.
I think that's sturdy enough to...
Okay, that was an apple. So first, Nornir chest. So Nornir is the plural for Norn, which are the Norns, the Fates. There are 3 of them that sit at the Will of Earth, and they're the ones who create the Fates for everyone that lives in the mythological world. And then, of course, we have Ethan's apples. It looked like an apple, so I was very, very excited to see this pop up. So Ethan is a goddess. She's married to the god of poetry, Bragi, and she holds the apples of immortality for the gods. So that this would have to do with, increasing your maximum health. Absolutely makes sense. So Ethan had special apples that kept the gods from getting old. And there's a myth in which she's kidnapped by a giant named Thiazi. Loki, of course, has something to do with it and has to do with the solution as well. But in any case, when she and her apples are gone, the gods really suffer and they grow old and gray in her absence. So Eden's apples, also very much part of the mythology.
Come on.
Aye, good old dwarven craftsmanship.
Tyr was a friend to the giants. I wonder if he and Mom ever met. If he was a part of the rebellion here.
It's certainly possible. The god of war often advocated for the giants, although I don't recall if he ever declared allegiance outright.
That's something that's also based in the mythology. Not that he had, declaring allegiance to the giants per se, but that Tyr had some connection to the giants. There's a poem called Hymir's poem, where Tyr, along with Thor, have to go to the home of a giant named Hymir in order to obtain a kettle that they can then brew beer in for this feast that's going to happen. That poem, it makes it a little bit unclear exactly what Tyr's relationship to Hymir is. It implies that his mother is there. At one point, it refers to Hymir as his father, and both individuals in question are giants. Very unlikely, given the reasons I talked about before, that his father would be a giant if he's considered one of the Aesir, but it is referring to his mother being at that home as well. And it does kind of establish this connection between Tyr and the Jötnar. But once again, Tyr is one of these figures that he there really isn't a ton about him, and what remains about him in the written record is really murky. He's very much been kind of overshadowed at this point by Odin, who's taken over some of his warfare characteristics. Or are these the ground?
Okay, there's gotta be some way to turn the wheel up here.
Whoa there! Give a man some warning if he's about to suddenly end up snout deep in cheek.
The ground.
Is that an earthquake?
An occasional but not unheard of happenstance in Svartalfheim. With all the mining here, the land's bound to be a wee bit bothered.
I was thinking, because it's so warm, maybe it's not that the cold hasn't made it here yet, but maybe it's just different in Svartalfheim?
Aye, lad. Fimble winter doesn't strike all realms quite the same way.
Weird that Fimble winter doesn't always make it winter.
In Midgard it does, but as you can see, the effects here appear far more gaseous in nature. Observe the geysers. Observe the aforementioned aroma. These effects were present before in some form, but now there's new extremity to them.
Those things are everywhere. Did they cap those geysers? I think we need to get that wheel moving, but the water doesn't reach. Yeah, the wheel's moving and the gate's coming down.
That's dwarven ingenuity for you.
Back to the
The
boat.
dwarves of this realm are anything like Brock and Sindri. It's hard to imagine them siding with Odin.
Well, all too often people are blinded to all but their immediate self-interest. Odin offered them safety, and defying him can be quite dangerous.
Maybe they just need a couple of gods to come along and take the fight to him.
Atreus, that is not why we are here.
I was only joking.
War is not a joke, especially where gods are concerned.
I've missed these boat rides.
It seems, Atreus, you intend to recruit Tyr as an ally for war.
I'm trying to keep our options open. Let's just keep moving. I'm glad we're out here, exploring a new realm. Maybe we could just try to enjoy the warmth? Can
That's one of Kvasir's poems. Very highbrow. You should collect any others you find.
Just a little bit on Kvasir. And it's funny that I'm watching and reacting to this now because we actually just read this myth in Old Norse earlier today. So Kvasir is said to be the wisest being. He was formed out of kind of a truce. The truce spittle, I guess it is, between the Aesir and the Vanir after that initial war. So they all came together to a peace meeting, and as part of the peace treaty, they all spat into this vat. And from that spittle, because they didn't want to lose the symbol of their truce, they created this man, and this man was named Kvasir, and Kvasir was said to be the wisest of all beings. And as far as the myth goes, according to story, Kvasir sets out into the world to teach people knowledge. But his journey is short-lived because he encounters Fjalar and Gjalar, who are a couple of dwarves, and they pretty immediately kill him. And then they take his blood and they mix it with honey. They put it in these three different receptacles, and this becomes mead. So this is kind of the origin of mead, which that since it then sort of sets into motion kind of the next myth, which has to do with the mead of poetry and how Odin obtains the mead of poetry. More dwarf shenanigans. Again, they're always pretty impulsive, and they both help and hinder, but a lot of times hinder individuals in the myths. So they make a lot of treasures for the gods, but they also do a lot of things that don't seem to make a lot of sense or seem to be very well thought through.
Lad, if I may, what exactly are you hoping to learn from Tyr?
Well, like I said, I was hoping he could tell me something about Loki. I'd also like to hear some of his stories. Traveling to other lands, giant stuff, and maybe about what it was like to fight back in the day. Just for the history, obviously.
History?
Obviously.
Let's hope Tyr's in a talkative mood after being in prison for so long. Not all of Odin's captives can be as charmingly voluble as myself.
We have no proof Tyr is truly here.
Right. That earthquake earlier. Do you think there will be another one?
It's unlikely, but geological disturbances tend to be unpredictable.
If the geysers and smell here are worse because of Fimbulwinter, maybe the earthquakes are too?
Atreus, look ahead.
Wow. Now this looks like a city.
Welcome to Nidavellir, brothers.
Hey, dwarves! Oh. They're, running away.
Like a Viking village.
Alarm.
I'd only sound an alarm like that if I still had my body, and was fearing the notion of being detached from it.
Why all that for us, though?
They are scared.
Most definitely an alarm, I'm afraid.
Why is everybody hiding?
Stay alert.
Reference to Gjallar's horn, Heimdall's horn that he has to sound at Ragnarok.
Hey, could we talk to you for...
any trouble, please.
There'll be no help, to be sure. Best we find the tavern Sindri mentioned on our own, and hope they let us in.
Okay, so another excellent segment with gameplay by the amazing Cleansed in Fire. So as always, it is an absolute pleasure and honor to be able to comment on this gameplay. So thank you, thank you, thank you for providing it to me. I'm eternally grateful. Before I delve into some of the kind of the larger things that I wanted to talk about with regard to what we just watched, I did want to talk about the comment that that was made in terms of Odin having no presence in the primordial realms. That was kind of at the end of the last episode, and then I didn't talk about, and I had a request to say a little bit more about that. So So the primordial realms are kind of those, the initial part of the world between Niflheim and Muspelheim, the cold and hot region from which, the primordial beings and everything like that form. And indeed, Odin was not there at the very beginning. Pretty close because he ends up killing the primordial being Ymir, but not before things are sort of set into motion and form. So Odin really actually isn't at the kind of the very start of the world. He isn't present for that. He does end up showing up, but a few things have to happen first, including his grandfather being born from essentially a, a block of ice or salt brine that the cow that feeds Ymir is licking. That's his grandpa, and then he has his father's born, and then Odin and his two brothers, Vili and Ve, are born, and they kill that primordial being Ymir. So, indeed, he's not there at the very, very start of things before anything exists. So that's absolutely correct what was stated there. So I talked about some things kind of as they occurred that I could bite off in sort of smaller chunks because I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. But I did want to save kind of the big piece for the end, and that's talking about Svartalfheim and about Nidavellir, sorry, about Nidavellir. So Svartalfheim, and I've talked about the elves and the light and the dark elves before. So what we know about Svartalfheim comes mostly from Snorri, and Snorri tells us about the realms in which the elves live. So he tells us in chapter 17 of the text known as Gylfaginning, or the deluding of Gylfi, when Gangleri, who's the king who's gone into question what is actually Odin in disguise as High, just as High in third, Gangleri says, asks basically about other significant places besides the one that had just been described, which was the one at the well of Urd. And the what High says in response is that one of these places is called Alfheim, or Elf World. The people called the Light Elves live there, but the Dark Elves live down below in the earth. They are different from the Light Elves in appearance and far more so in nature. The Light Elves are more beautiful than the sun, while the Dark Elves are blacker than pitch. So meaning it would have been the word svart, which is not used for skin color as much as it's used for like sootiness. So it wouldn't have been, it would have been more of a connotation of maybe kind of, being from underneath the earth. And I've mentioned this book a few times, the John Lindau's Guide to Norse Mythology. Super, super recommend this one if you're looking for an introduction to Norse mythology. It's really just an excellent general guide and is my go-to resource when I am teaching and now when I'm reacting and I want to kind of get a refresher. So, Snorri tells us a couple of different times, according to Lindau, that that there are dwarves who live in Svartalfheim, which literally means the world of the Black Elves. And it's not clear, Lindau says, whether Snorri meant to distinguish between dark elves and black elves, if these were meant to be two different things, and also whether dark elves and black elves meant the same thing as dwarves. There is kind of not a ton of information whether these two things were meant to be identical or not. We don't really know. I've talked about this in some of my previous videos, but so much of what we have available to us now is really just a fraction of what once existed. So we have lost so much of what once existed. Probably, if we're being generous, what we have available to us now is maybe 10%. That's probably being quite generous. It's maybe about 5% of what once existed in terms of written source material. So there's just so much that is lost to us forever. I also wanted to explain where Nidavellir comes from, and that's mentioned in stanza 36 of the Severus's prophecy. And it's mentioned when the this is kind of within the context of the events about leading up to Ragnarok. And the seeress talks about, to the north, there stood on dark of moon plains a hall of gold of Sindri's lineage. So Sindri mentioned in connection with Dark of Moon Plains, which is Carolyn Larrington's translation for Nidavellir. Vellir means plains. And so you've heard Nidhug, a lot of these things have to do with darkness. I think that I actually managed to cover a lot of the other bits of mythology that were interspersed kind of as we went. And just generally loving having Sindri and Brok back, loving the dynamic between Kratos and Atreus as he becomes this kind of brooding teen who just, I mean, and I say this as a parent of a teen, is in every way sort of displaying just that teenage angst and energy. So I also did want to say that I thought that the landscape of Nidavellir and kind of the surrounding areas, the sort of the wetlands, the bog areas leading up to it, they seem to be drawing quite a lot on imagery of Iceland. So while Iceland isn't warm, it's very rocky like that. And the word for geyser actually comes from Icelandic geysir. It's named for the famous geysir in Iceland that you're able to go see if you ever go on a tour there. And this idea of kind of the earthquakes, the frequent earthquakes, of there being this kind of smell from the water is something that immediately called to mind Iceland because, of course, the sulfur, the smell of sulfur in the water because it is from geothermal heat is something that you'll notice pretty instantaneously if you go to Iceland and are anywhere within the proximity of a hot spring, or even if you turn on hot water that isn't in a more modern building that has newer plumbing to filter out the smell. So I think they were very much drawing on Icelandic landscape. I think that's really about it. So I will forge ahead. And as always, please let me know if you have any questions. I'm absolutely loving this game. It is, I know, I think it's, yeah, surpassing my highest expectations in terms of what the story's doing, how it's engaging with the mythology, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So let me know what you think in the comments. Please feel free to share this with anyone you think might be interested, and I will see you next time.